So, you can see these two chairs. We have a fireside chat from a man who is part of an institution that I think all of us know. If I say to you, blue boxes with yellow writing and we get furniture from, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to the stage Peter Jelkeby from IKEA. Peter Jelkeby is the UK and Ireland CEO, the Chief Sustainability Officer of the IKEA Group, over 30 years experience in global retail leadership, leads IKEA's strategy in dual focus of business success and sustainability, believes in a shared responsibility of engaging workers, partners and customers, and has a goal for a people and planet positive IKEA. Peter is going to come and sit and be joined with Steve Wyatt, of whom you know. Steve will lead this fireside chat. Please put your hands together as they talk about mastering both and. Mastering both and. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Jelkeby and Steve Wyatt.
Get to sit down this time. It's nice. Peter, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and I know we're not probably going to do it justice with the time we've got, but I wondered if you could maybe set the scene with, you know, what's going on in retail. It's is there still such thing called retail? What do you know?
Well, retail is for sure very, I would say, dynamic. I think that if you mean by that it's a transformational kind of thing with the consumer journeys, I would say that when it comes to particularly how we're interacting with the customers, it's happening a lot and quite rapidly. And there are various things. You can go back to 10 years ago when I think the whole omni agenda became more kind of evident. Then you had the COVID impact of that actually accelerated the whole thing, physical closing down in our case. Then we need to reach our customer in different ways. The awareness of customers today, I think not only how we meet them, but also the thinner wallets, the cost consciousness, the affordability agenda, and then you come into sustainability as well. And in our case, you could say that we took a new grip on the way we want to approach us and take the next step as a company when we basically had three roads steering us in our transformation. One was about the affordability. The other one, how we are more accessible and relevant. And the final one was actually a more sustainable IKEA.
Good. Interesting. And so we know and love the big blue buildings.
Yeah, you do?
Yes, I love those buildings. Are they going to be around in the future?
Yes, they will be around.
But you're going to stick with that model, or are you going to complement it with other things?
I think we are already complementing with other things. And you could say when the whole digital kind of the online business evolved for, I mean, now it's 20 years ago, almost 25 years ago for us, or around that numbers. Already then they started to evolve, right? I think we were not so consciously aware at that time. We were more getting on with business as always in the big stores. But I think the latest 6-7 years, we really realized that how we more can fulfill the purpose of the store and the role to play in the infrastructure of other meeting points. So today we have, we just recently opened at Oxford Street, a smaller kind of high street format. We have the same in Hammersmith. We have kitchen shops. We have a variety of ways of meeting both digitally as well as physically. I think that's a sign that, yeah, they will be around, but they will fulfill a slightly different purpose. And we cannot just be static. Okay. In the way we're operating them.
So I also saw perhaps more negatively, you're closing some of the big stores, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the model is evolving and shifting the balance.
The model is evolving. I think we're into a mood which I think is very vital for if you want to be a business that's transforming, you need to dare to test and try. Okay. I think we've always been entrepreneurial, and I think when we close something, which we have done quite recently, it's, you can say, I wouldn't say success in itself, because that, of course, has not worked as we wanted it to work. But we take learnings from it, and we move on to the next step. So we are opening, for example, the plan and order points that you referred to. We closed, but we open new ones that are slightly bigger. Okay. Because we learned something in that previous kind of phase, if I may say so.
Okay, so I want to, therefore, sort of dig into this idea of both and. Yeah. So you're both with your traditional model and the experimentation on the new. how do you decide, I guess, the pace at which you do that? And how do you bring people along? For example, those in the traditional model, are they feeling that time is limited, they don't have much future because they're not in the new? Do they look enviously at the people at the new? How do you manage this rate of evolution?
I think it starts with, and I think you touched on it a few times today, I think this morning, about the purpose of the business. That first of all, regardless if you're working in a store, in a warehouse, in a central office, or in the supply chain, whatever you do, you need to align on the purpose of why you're there. Because if you go with the purpose, and I would say also the values, and that is the holy kind of thing you want to hold on to, but also then open that everything else can actually move along, then I think you will also take away fear from change. But because I think one of the things that when you work with transformation, at least in our case, is this: how can we embrace transformation? How can we make you feel comfortable in actually not worrying about tomorrow, but be ready to take that step? And I would say purpose is extremely important. I would say the value foundation, that you can always relate to it. It's not like we are becoming, in our case, a different IKEA. No, it's the same IKEA, but to be entrepreneur in IKEA today versus 40 years ago is slightly different. And then I think also that you are also reasons why in that context, right? That communication, I think presence as a leader, you are near the front line, you know what you're talking about, you're not creating kind of mysterious business development group somewhere. And I think this all together makes a good transformation.
Okay. And just on the human side of the people employed though, are you taking people with you, or are you discarding a group and hiring a new group? So how do the individuals feel? Purpose of the company, I get it. The values of the company, I get it. But at the human individual employee level, how do they?
I would say we take them with us.
Okay.
And I think in the majority of cases we are successful with that. I personally believe a lot in seeing people. And I think if you see people, you're also going to be engaged, you're going to listen. And I don't think you can, again, if you want to do good transformation, or I think, again, transformation sounds like it's a certain phase where we are come for a certain period. It's more how we are evolving or revolutioning our business constantly. Okay. But if you do that, I think many of the answers, in a sense of meeting the customer, it sits actually with the co-workers in the stores. They see this. They're consumers themselves. They will pick up comments. They know that many of our customers come to the store today. They love to interact with the co-worker. They can touch and feel materials or look at sizes, but then they go home online, right? So of course they see this. So to be more, that means for them normally, by actually us being on top of or being close to this reality, they quickly can, of course, tap into what we're doing. Then it is important, and that's not have kind of a fear for the future, right? Am I afraid of losing my job? Then what should happen? Will the store be around tomorrow? And that is, of course, where we need to work on our direction and how we see IKEA going into the future.
I'm just wondering if that could be taken further, so that if the listening post are the employees in the store, can they be the drivers of the pace of change? Or are you still really driving it top down, but they're understanding the context?
I think it's a combination, and I think maybe that didn't answer the kind of how quick pace can you have. I think by the end of the day, the consumers will decide a little bit what pace we need to have, because they are dictating a way how they want to shop with us. And that means we need to stay close to that reality, right? So in that sense, that will set the pace. Then I think it's a combination of us. What I think philosophy or way of leading is that it's good to get clear objectives and where we're heading towards, but then create space to act within. Then I think you will get the element of, I know how to maneuver, I know a little bit where we're heading, I know what role I'm playing. Then, of course, there is time to be operational on the floor, to meet the customers. There is time to sometimes be strategic. And we can't sometimes do both. But I would say, when we do things about testing and trialing, we do it in the stores, or we do it in the warehouses. So we are using our organization to take part in how we are evolving as a business.
But do you allow that entrepreneurial spirit into the people in the outlets or and things?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're expecting them to come up and be entrepreneurial and then...
No, I expect them to be active.
Okay.
I expect that as a company, we need to provide platforms and we need to provide directions. I want them to feel connected to what we are doing. I think they have a day job, of course, to do. If I'm meeting a customer, maybe I can't, just, I'm going to, thank you, I need the coffee break now, things some strategic work here. I think it's more a matter of how you use that everyday knowledge that they have into our change process. And in that sense, I expect them to be always entrepreneur in their mindset. But as being big as we are, I think one thing we discussed a lot about, if we create a strong standardization of certain kind of as a foundation, if you create a strong concept of where we're heading, then we will actually release time for entrepreneurs to act. Because then we make sure that the things on like the machinery goes, so I can actually focus on things that really make a difference on the entrepreneurial side. But I think we have also kind of a DNA as being entrepreneurs.
Right, but I'm hearing that's a second both and. The first both and is it's the traditional and the new, and then this is both corporate and entrepreneurial within the sort of framework. So I want to also then talk about another potential one. You are also in charge of Lean Sustainability Initiative. So talk to me about the profit and sustainability thing. I know it's a topic that's being talked about a lot in leadership, but how does that work? Is it a both and, or is it only sustainability and then result is profit? Is that a both and?
It's a both and.
Okay.
And it's a good business. It's the good business to do good business, basically. And then I think some things are moving faster than others. Some things will go quicker than other things. But the sustainability journey for IKEA starts already in when we are developing our range. Meaning you can say that both in a way of what type of products are we actually developing for? What solution do we provide? So you can actually live a more sustainable life. And then I go into things like recycling systems, the low energy consumption of lights and so forth. Already there we have to think. But then what goes into the products, obviously with material, how it's being produced, how it's being shipped, how we take it into our stores. That whole chain of things is really about how we can be efficient. And I would say that IKEA has been about affordability and low price. That's part of our DNA. If you want to be affordable, you need to be cost efficient. If you want to be cost efficient, you need to use less material. And I think when our founder, if I talk about Ingvar Kamprad, who founded IKEA, I think at the time when he talked about cost consciousness, it was not necessarily coming from an environmental point of view. But when it started, but as time evolved, we were very early out in how do we produce, what materials do we use, can we be smarter about recycling so we get more money back. So we were very driven about making a good business, if that makes sense.
So when you say recycling, so I have the impression, maybe incorrectly, that it's sort of trees to landfill or trees to bonfire. You're saying that I see quite a high proportion recycled?
Yeah, I think that majority we do is that we got to go back to the system.
Okay.
Some materials, wood and so forth, is better than others, and cardboard and things. The plastic has been the big thing. But our ambition is that we constantly are working with the recycling system and the circular economy. We have launched towards the consumers that they can bring back the old IKEA stuff or all IKEA products.
Okay.
We can, if they're tired of them, we can fix them up a bit and we resell them in a reshop and reuse. So we are working on this circular kind of economy, and over time that's something we're really driving us in both the way we work with materials and as well as the way how we provide the consumers to make it easy for them to live a more recyclable or sustainable life.
Okay, so now could you share some secrets? What's the next big sustainability push that you're doing, or the change that you would like to see?
I think when it comes to sustainability, I think we've done a lot with the energy side, which is not maybe always so visible. So we have everything in renewable energy. We're running our stores in UK and Ireland, right? We invest as a company in renewable energy across the globe. Not so visible. What's visible is that all our EV, the last mile or the customer deliveries today, basically as soon as 100% in EV, which I think is a big step forward from where we were. I think also then that scalability is something we need still to crack. So when I talk about platforms for reselling your products, we have launched that, and we also want to launch it here soon, or even our own platform for online. But that's something where I look very much, the big thing for me, or for us, is also how we scale things. Okay. And how we can really cater for more and more products being brought back and into the system again.
Interesting. And building on the sort of innovation that we just heard from Hitendra, and it sort of fits into this idea of how fast you can go as well. So one of the language I use is, it used to be ready, aim, carefully, fire. And that'd be a new project you do, and your aim would be as perfect as possible, and somebody higher up would give you a blessing to try something new. And increasingly, I'm seeing the shift that is ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
Because you learn more while something's actually out there. I'm wondering where you think the culture of the IKEA stands right now. Is it still more on the ready, aim, be cautious, and then fire? Or are we getting more entrepreneurial empowerment and more projects going through and then learning from that?
I think we do probably the latter. I think that there are some big things we're shifting. If you take the digital agenda is a big thing for us to create a stronger platform, more tools, more kind of AI coming into the business so we can create a thing that is ongoing, how we are, I would say, aiming, but also go live. Then there are things where I would say we'll test and trial, and we are quite quick at it. You mentioned before you started out asking me, you closed down some stores. Yes, we have, because we did fire, and we did learn that was a little bit too much to the left or to the right. We need to pull back and we learn. I would say is this a balance of keep your foundation, because we have responsibility of that to a little bit as a company, right? Mm-hmm. At the same time, enable ourselves to do that little bit quick testing in and out. And I think we are really in a phase of trial, test and trial. But there's also a little bit of our DNA. And then you can say that at various levels, you have different dignities of it, right? The global agenda, of course, there are some big projects going around. And in the UK, we are part of that. I would say that UK and Ireland as a retail market is quite advanced. If you compare us to some others, we have a high share of online sales already. We are up on the 45%. And so forth, which means that we are quite dependent on leading collaborative then with global about how we are evolving the customer journeys, whatever it might be. Yeah? In that sense, it needs to be quite fast in how we're testing and trialing and get kind of clearance now we roll out. Huh?
All right. So we're going to again build a couple of threads you just shared. You're a global company operating kind of everywhere. How many countries?
Oof. Next question. That one, I was majority of 400 stores divided by whatever. So in many countries.
Where does the innovation take place? Is it in China or is it in the headquarters?
I think it's, now you maybe think I'm saying it, but I'll come back to it is and on that one. Because China is also, if I talk about another market that is needing a front end of evolving consumer behavior. We do a lot in China with the Chinese organization. It is a collaboration with the global team, and the same goes for us. I think it is that balance of how we're utilizing the front line to develop stronger centrally. So we are doing a lot in the markets that are, of course, when it comes to digitalization, you have a platform, you need to have some sort of global foundation that we are all in common, so you don't end up with different spaghettis that we maybe had for a while, right? And I think that is where you find the borderline of, we are steered, we have a business development team, we have Explore team in globally, sitting in Sweden and so forth, but we're also utilizing the markets where it needs to be utilized. So China, Dynamics, we have some digital hubs in other countries as well that are working with digitalization. So it's a combination.
But is there, I guess I'm digging deeper, is there a highly innovative market that you can just tap into and maybe do much more rapid experimentation there in order to then perhaps inform the wider network?
Yeah, I think what we do then, both actually here in UK, because we need to do it for business reasons. We need to be there when it comes to online, when it comes to meeting points. We are just announced that we are testing some low-cost expansion. We have 3 stores in Norwich, Harlow, and Chester being opened very rapidly now in the summer. We have done Oxford Street, we're doing Brighton. So here we come to the physical side. I think we've been very active also on the fulfillment. China is very active today in developing for us. So you can look a little bit at different places, but it would be kind of the win-win is that for us, if you come into, we of course are depending on global collaboration as a foundation. And we of course know that the more we collaborate, the better it is for us. Huh? And I think a little bit that's the way to look at it across the world actually.
Okay. Moving to you yourself, if you don't mind a couple bits. I believe you were at IKEA for a while, then went somewhere else, and then returned to IKEA. I'm wondering, is that something that is a positive, or is that something you would encourage? This idea of returning back to a mothership where you've been before.
I think that is a personal question, obviously. And in my case, when I've been with, I wouldn't say I'm born and bred IKEA, but I was a kind of a classic. I did my part-time job in a Swedish store in Gothenburg many years. I studied marketing I ended up working for IKEA in purchasing. We had nothing to do with my degree or anything. So somehow I ended up there. Then I had a journey through purchasing, and then I came to UK and so forth, right? At that time, and actually I had an opportunity to join another retail company in Sweden. For me, it was kind of good to see something else. I've been in the company for 20 more years. See what I can do. Now it's a personal thing here. See what I can test myself. I was lucky to come to a company that was a public company, so I was exposed to a little bit like we are not in IKEA. I was lucky to come to a company with good value base, so the culture was there. Then when I actually, this happened with UK, because it came a little bit from, it wasn't I was really, I need to go back to IKEA. It just happened in a conversation. When I came home, if I say so, I felt right straight away. And in that sense, I think that for me, it was very much about coming back to a company where I think that gives me a lot of opportunities, where there are many reasons for why I like to work for IKEA. And I also use my then knowledge being outside. For me as a person, actually it helped me to think differently. And still knowing.
So you developed more and you brought more skills back. Where I'm going is this something you would recommend to people, that they get changed rather than stay within the same organization, get experience elsewhere, and leave the door open to come back?
Probably, because I meet quite a few talents, young or old talents as well, who wants to ask me the question about recommend. If there's something I would recommend is that don't be so rational always in your decision. Don't be afraid of taking leaps. What it meant for me was I went from working in purchasing and became sales manager in UK overnight. And of course, I wondered what in my CV actually purchasing. But I did that, and it was kind of a way what I liked about IKEA. So in that sense, I like this cross-fertilization of different type of roles. That's something I think is important for a career. I do also think on the point you're making, to test yourself in a different environment, it helped me a lot. I think it's always going to make you're going to, when the time is, it's always going to be open doors. In our case, we have many guys who have, girls who have said, thank you, IKEA, I had the opportunity. We would always welcome them back.
Okay.
And many return also, right? But I think it's always this diversity. Make sure you also, as well as when you recruit, that you use those experience, not only from IKEA, you broaden yourself, and I believe a lot in that diverse backgrounds. Yes.
Perfect. So thank you, Peter. I think we've had lots of both ands, right?
Yeah, both ands.
Sustainability and profit, traditional business model and innovation from Sweden and innovation elsewhere. And now we've got the both and of staying loyal to the firm and experiencing something else.
Right.
So thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks.